I hope you're enjoying this service, finding it helpful. First time I, or probably you, have done anything like this, so I really value feedback from you as to how it's been, things that work, things that perhaps didn't, or that you found difficult. First time we've done it, so please be patient. We don't know how often we'll have to do this, but we're doing our best. So I'd really love to hear from you, and I hope that you have encountered God in some way. As I've already mentioned, I'm self-isolating. My doctors have instructed me to do that because I'm immune compromised. But that doesn't mean I'm not working, still doing this, still available to you if you need me. So if you do need me, you can get in touch with me in all the usual ways, and we can make a plan to chat on a case-by-case basis in terms of what works for you. And you can still make contact with the wardens, of course, and they can help you out. Don't be alone. If you need help with something, then just let us know and we'll see what we can do to help you out with anything that you need. I'd like you to just press pause on this video in a moment to take a moment of quiet together, to invite God to speak to you in this time around God's Word and to teach you and to help you respond to what He has to say to you individually and to us as a community. So please just take a moment to pause this video, spend that a little moment in silence, and then press play again. Well, the schools are closed, and they're going to be closed for longer than we're used to at this time of year. And some of us may be thinking about how we are going to continue educating our kids, homeschooling them in this extra time that we have them at home. And if you've been on social media, you've probably seen a suggested daily schedule by a creative homeschooler. And the suggested schedule runs like this: 9 o'clock. Before 9 o'clock, wake up, have breakfast, make your bed, get dressed, etc. 9 till 10, morning walk or yoga if it's raining. 10 till 11, academic time, no electronics, books, flashcards, study guides, etc. 11 till 12, creative time. Legos, drawing, crafting, playing music, cooking, that sort of thing. 12 o'clock till 12:30, lunch. You only get half an hour for lunch? That seems a bit short. Anyway, 12:30, chore time around the house. 1 till 2:30, quiet time, reading, puzzles, having a nap. I vote having a nap. 2:30 till 4 o'clock, academic time. This time you are allowed to use electronics, games, educational stuff. 4 till 5, afternoon, fresh air, bikes, walking, playing outside. 5 till 6, dinner. 6 till 8, free time. You can watch TV, and you also need to take a shower in that time. 8 o'clock, bedtime for all children. 9 o'clock, bedtime for all kids who follow the schedule without a fuss. Now, it's good to have a timetable, and if we're in enforced kind of by yourself time, then we all do need to have some kind of schedule, some kind of rhythm, because it's good for our mental health, and it's good just to keep our day in some kind of sense of progress. But I'm not sure the person who made that schedule has kids who are human beings. Certainly, I haven't met my kids. There's another schedule doing around that I think is more realistic, perhaps. 8 o'clock, wake the kids up. 8 till 10, kids run feral. 10 o'clock, mum and dad get up. 10 till 11, screen time. 11 till 2, video game time. 12 till 2, a bit more screen time. 2 till 3, fight over toys. Raid the pantry. Have a drink, have dinner. Mum and dad go to bed while the kids watch their screens, probably while we're asleep. Now, of course, it's a joke, but, you know, let's be kind to ourselves and to our kids. We're all in this together, and maybe rigid timetables aren't quite the way to go, especially if we have no experience at all of educating kids at home or just this kind of regimented routine. Be kind to yourself, but have a structure. Anyway, we're in a time of being limited in what we can do. When we can shop, how and when we worship together, who we can see, the freedoms that we are accustomed to have been limited or taken away. A lot of our choice has been removed. And it can be hard to have something that we'd grown very used to, probably in fact, in a lot of cases, so used to them that we forgot we actually had them, taken them for granted. It can be hard to have those taken away. And for some of us in this country, here in South Africa, there may actually be triggers in all this about the past, when freedoms were removed for many of us. And if that's the case, if you are remembering that, then name that, understand that, talk about that with people you can trust. But remind yourself that this is different, that this time freedoms are being limited in order to protect others, protect the most vulnerable. Certainly, you and I and any children around us are going to find ourselves bored at different times. I have already heard, "I'm bored, I'm bored." I'm sure some of you have experienced that for yourself and as people around you. But a lot of scientific research suggests that boredom can be very constructive. It might even actually be essential to our happiness, as one philosopher wrote. It can certainly make us more creative. A study by a psychologist called Sandy Mann gave subjects various boring tasks to complete, and then asked them to use the creative thinking to do something. The subjects who had the most boring tasks, reading the phone book, came up with the most interesting uses for plastic cups, which apparently is a standard test for creative thinking. The research seems to indicate that boredom encourages the mind to wonder, and that then leads us to more creative ways of thinking and of doing things. Boredom can also help us see when there's something wrong. A researcher and philosophy professor suggests in a psychology article that cites a whole load of studies in this area, suggests that boredom, quote, acts as a regulatory state that keeps us in line with our projects. In the absence of boredom, we would remain trapped in unfulfilling situations and miss out on many emotionally, cognitively, and socially rewarding experiences. Boredom is both a warning that we are not doing what we want to be doing and a push that motivates us to change goals and projects. And boredom can also make us more goal-oriented. When people's minds wander and they're not thinking about what's going on around them, they're more likely to think about the future. In a process that's referred to as autobiographical planning, people frequently plan and anticipate their future goals whilst daydreaming. Boredom can make us productive. Scientists at one university recently discovered that daydreaming has a positive effect on brain performance by stimulating the region of the brain responsible for thought-controlling processes and thought-freeing behaviour activity, and so increasing mind-wandering behaviour. The researchers found that daydreaming doesn't harm your ability to succeed at a task, but can actually help it. And boredom can help you think about others. Researchers in Ireland discovered that when people are bored, when we lack a sense of meaning in our own activities, in our own circumstances, it can trigger us to search elsewhere to discover that meaning. And that can often lead to people doing more stuff in service of other people. Boredom, it turns out, can be healthy and good. But that doesn't mean we enjoy it at the time, necessarily. Limitations that lead us to getting bored or frustrated, limitations, particularly ones that we haven't chosen for ourselves, can be really hard. And painful and hard as this time may be, and it is those things, it is painful and hard, we may find ourselves coming face to face with limitations in such a way that we find ourselves growing and understanding more of God and ourselves and each other. To help us think about that, I'm going to read to you from Luke chapter 5, verse 1. Luke chapter 5, verse 1. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret with the people crowding round him and listening to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken, and so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid, from now on you will catch men." So they pulled their boats up on the shore and left everything and followed him. So Peter is doing his job. He's a fisherman and he's been out all night and he has failed. He has caught nothing. If you've ever worked for hours and hours on end on a project that is really important to you, a project that's going to put money in the bank account, pay the bills, food on the table, and it's come to nothing, you will know how frustrated, tired, fed up with life Peter might have been feeling at this point. He might even have got to the point where he's thinking, are we going to have food on the table tonight? To a certain extent, Peter in this account is at the end of himself. And as he's finishing up for the night, Jesus and this crowd following Jesus appear on the shore. And Jesus is going to teach the people. But to do that, he needs a bit of physical separation from them so that he can see them and they can see him and he can be heard. So he gets into Peter's boat and they push out a short way from the shore and Jesus teaches. And we know from other places in the Gospels that when Jesus taught, he did so with rare authority, as one of the Gospel writers says. Authority that marked him out from the Pharisees and the other religious teachers of the day. And something about that authority must have connected with Peter too, because when Jesus turns to him after he's finished speaking and says, "Put your nets out on the other side," Peter's response is, "Well, normally I wouldn't do this, Jesus, because I don't know you from anybody. You're not a fisherman. You're some kind of rabbi. What do you know about fishing?" But Peter has already seen something different about this teacher, this rabbi. Says, "Okay, I'll do it. Even though I caught nothing all night, I'll put my nets out." And they do that, and they get this abundant, huge catch of fish. So much so that it seems to almost cause the nets to break. And the result of that, verse 8, is that Peter sees this and he falls at Jesus' knees and says, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. Peter has been brought face to face with his limitations. He, a professional fisherman, doesn't know where the fish are. But in doing so, he has discovered more about himself, and he discovers something profound about Jesus. And the response of Jesus to that is to call him, invite him to be involved in Jesus' work. Now, most of us don't like thinking about our limitations. We avoid the doctor because we don't want the diagnosis. We go walking on the mountain when we shouldn't, when it's not safe for us. We maybe drive a bit too fast. We all have our own way of pushing limitations. But there is a grace in limitations that means we are brought face to face with our need of God. Peter suddenly recognizes that he is a sinful person, that he needs Jesus, the Lord, as he calls him. Let me show you, says Jesus to Peter, how much you need me. So what if in this time of imposed limitations that none of us have chosen, Jesus was saying to you, to me, let me show you how much you need me. Let me show you that I know where the fish are. Alongside that, Jesus may also be saying, you're not self-sufficient, you need other people. There's no such thing as a self-sufficient Christian. You know, we might like to think ourselves are capable and not admit our needs to everybody else, but Jesus provides for us so often through others. Jesus often comes to us now through others, other people. And to do that, we need to admit our needs and our limitations, our weaknesses to others and say, help me. In a time like this, it might be, can you do some shopping for me? It might be, I'm running out of money. It might be, I'm scared. It could be all sorts of things. But our limitations bring us face to face with who we are and with who God is, and allow us to experience the provision and power of God. Secondly, naming and owning our limitation means that, as Paul writes in the epistles, God's power is made perfect in our weakness. The reality is that if you hide our limitations and weaknesses and our need of others, our need of God, then we push down the power of God working through us. Maybe in this season of imposed limitations imposed for the safety of other people, the vulnerable, maybe God can work to show you what he can do because of your limitations, not despite them. As I said earlier, I'm immune compromised, and that means my doctors have instructed me to take care of myself and to isolate. Now, I have a choice still. I could say, with kind of a sense of holy pride almost, I'm going to trust God to protect me, and I'm going to keep going as normal and go to meetings and everything else. I could do that. But it would be the wrong thing to do. For a start, irrespective of my own health, I could inadvertently, accidentally transmit the virus to somebody else. Because, of course, you can carry the virus, pass on the virus, even if you don't have any symptoms of it. And also, doing that would mean that I wasn't trusting God. It may sound like I'm trusting God to protect me and to heal me, but I'm not trusting God. I'm actually trying to show off. It wouldn't allow God to move. It would be me saying, God, I don't believe that you saw this coming, that you actually have a plan to help us deal with this, and a plan to speak your truth to people, to care for people, that doesn't involve all the ways that I'm used to and that I'm comfortable with. You know, Dave, I am not the church. I'm just one part of it, and you are all the church. The building of St. Peter's may be closed for the time being for public worship, but St. Peter's church is still doing things because you're doing things. The church is open and alive even when the building's closed. Spread the aroma of Christ, as I said last week. Do what you can where you are. And trust that within the limitations that you have naturally or imposed on us in this time, that God will still work through others. And thirdly, notice how a call for Peter, a vocation, comes out of this. Come with me, says Jesus, and I will make you fishers of men. This recognition of Peter's own limitations, this understanding of his sinfulness, this revelation of Jesus' lordship and power, leads to Jesus calling Peter to something, changing the direction of his life. And Peter and his companions leave their nets and follow Jesus. I wonder if for you, for the church, for us all, we will find at the end of this process, this crisis, that our call is clearer or different in some way. Because we've been brought face to face with our own limitations and the power of God, and we see things in a changed, different way. I'm going to ask you to press pause again in a minute, or to stop this video. And think and pray together about a couple of questions. So if you're by yourself, just think through these questions, have a little prayerful think about them, write them down, and take them into the week with you. If you're with others, then maybe chat about them together for a bit and pray about them together. And take them into the week. It's not just limited to here and now. So here's a couple of questions based on what we're thinking about from this passage of Scripture. First of all, in what ways am I being limited at the moment? In what ways am I being limited at the moment? Secondly, in what ways are these limitations showing me who God is? And thirdly, what does it look like for me and us as a community to trust in God's power made perfect? What does it look like for me and for us as a community to trust in God's power made perfect? Have a think and a pray about those questions. And in a couple of minutes' time, I'll send out the next WhatsApp as part of the service if you are watching this on Sunday morning. God bless.